Back to my channel where I go and actually give you my recommendations up front for new streaming content on those streaming platforms. And then you stick around and see if I could justify why I gave it that recommendation. Today, I'm going to go ahead and actually review The Stranger in Our House on Tubi. Now, this is a psychological thriller. And if you are that target audience, meaning that you go ahead and actually are into crime psychological thrillers, especially for Black folks or Black Americans, I'm going to go ahead and actually suggest that you watch at least one episode of this show. Likewise, if you're a casual audience member where you're not really into that type of thing, or you're just trying to see if this is your genre or just a general show, I'm also going to go and actually give you a recommendation to watch one episode. Now, stay tuned and see if I could justify those recommendations.
Calm down, friend. Justice will prevail.
The Stranger in Our House premiered on Tubi in August of 2024. That's a crime thriller that has 5 episodes in the first season, and each are about 40 minutes apiece. Now, this is part of what I go ahead and actually call my Varnell Hill series. What does that mean? It means,
Did you miss me?
that's right, Did You Miss Me? These are shows that went ahead and actually premiered over 6 months ago, and whether it's on a free platform, whether it didn't get the notoriety, whether it doesn't have the production value or anything like that, these are possibly diamonds in the rough that you might have missed. Or it could be a total tragedy, and I'm up here wasting my time. Either way, we go ahead and actually take a look and see if it's worth your time. Because I watched the first 2 episodes of brand new streaming content to see if it's worth your time. Now, for this one, for The Stranger in Our House, this is actually starring Brian Karstaffen as Derek Brown, Sheila Scott as Pearl Brown, and Grover McCants as Donald Brown. Now, IMDb has given me the synopsis this way. This series delves into the dark and twisted mind of Derek Brown, a seemingly normal man who harbors a deadly secret. Raised by loving and God-fearing parents, Derek's facade of normalcy begins to crumble as he embarks on a killing spree that shocks his family and community. As Derek's true nature is revealed, his parents are left grappling with the devastating realization that their son is a cold-blooded killer. But the secrets don't stop there. So that's what we have for the synopsis, and there's a lot to unload there. Now, for me, from my perspective, crime thrillers, they've got me like a half and half as far as, is that my target type of genre or if it's not. Like, I can be really full on into the tropes and be okay with them in a crime series because sometimes those tropes are just comforting and they're fun to go along with. But with thrillers, not so much. And thrillers are about, it's the pulping. They're a little bit more dialed back from like horror films. Horror films really depends on getting your adrenaline up and getting those jump scares or getting you something where you're just like fearing what's around the corner. Thrillers are a little bit below on that, and so not always my favorite genre. They have to go and actually be coupled with psychological thrillers and kind of leave me some mystery for the brain and like something for me to go ahead and actually kind of attach to. I'm not automatically just going around with a horror or excuse me, I'm not automatically going around with a thriller and just going ahead and actually putting myself in that genre. But when it's a psychological thriller, it really speaks to me. And that type of genre really relies heavily on a good premise and the acting to really make it entertaining for me. And so when you go ahead and actually have something like this, where it's kind of like a psychological thriller, and it does have Black people in it, which does kind of tip me a little bit, but it's a Tubi movie, right? So it's a Tubi series, right? So it'll go ahead and actually tell me about that. So I'm actually going to go and actually say I'm on the fence about this. So I'm neither for the genre, nor am I a casual, kind of on the fence. I can go either way on this. The reason why I want you to know that is because you should always know where your review is coming from when you're taking that recommendation into account. If you like how that sounds, do me a favor, click like, share, subscribe. And now let's deep dive a little bit further into the episodes here. So, having watched the first 2 episodes of this particular series, I can go and actually confidently say some of the things that you can compare this to, if you're going to go and actually compare it to other content that exists out there. Things like His Perfect Obsession, or The Talented Mr. Ripley, or Sleeping with the Enemy. Those are ones that I've seen that I can compare it to, where you're talking about a family member, a close person to them, or what have you, going through the struggles of someone next to you that is uh, building up crime, and they have a criminal persona and things of that nature. There's secrecy and things like that. And there's a lot of troubling psychological, mental gymnastics that are going on there to go ahead and actually pursue this movie. There's suspense and all that kind of stuff in there. So those are ones that kind of speak to me the most on there to give you a flavor of what this particular series is like. So in episode one, I would go and actually say that the initial scene has a good mix of like good and bad acting with the dialogue. Overall, there's a sense of terror with the main character of Derek, and so overall, I think you would go ahead and actually say it's more towards better acting than bad. But there's some times where you're just like, okay, but it's all right. Yeah, Derek in that first scene and within like the first half of the episode really shows that he's a great manipulator. He actually has the look, the carry, the persona that really going to actually give you that. He gives you the creep vibes pretty much off bat. There's some decent acting scenes throughout the first episode that kind of pulls you in a little bit. Now, I think there would have been a benefit to go ahead and actually showing them apprehend Derek, because in this first episode, I'm trying not to spoil anything in case you're going to watch it, but the first scene on there is kind of like he's already been captured. And so it should have been like a lead up to it. And I think the series would have benefited from that to kind of soften you into that and kind of get you into the flavor where we're going with it. But they chose to go and actually do it a different way, but it's okay. Um, Now, there's a church scene in here that's actually very good if you are a Black American, Afro American, whatever you want to go and call yourself, Black folks. Okay. I think any of us that have actually gone to church and dealt with folks of the Christian faith or whatever, that was a very well done scene. And it really shows how people would probably treat people that, have a criminal in their family and how that family would react and all that kind of stuff. It was a very good scene done. There's a high production value for this, considering it's a Tubi series, and so I'm going to go and actually bring that up as a highlighting point on there because it was shockingly better things were done with this, and I like that. That was pretty good. Good dialogue about how the Black community overall kind of deals with these types of things and with friends and family and all that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate that. The ending of episode one was just kind of, it fell flat, so there was no like jump off point to make you want to binge this, and that kind of disappointed me because up to the last part in there, it really was a pretty decent series and first episode to watch. Second episode really jumps into the developments surrounding the second episode, and it's kind of like it was hinted at in the second in the it's kind of it was hinted at in the latter portion of the first episode, but they just kind of jump you in it. It's hard to go and actually say, but it was just jarring of how I went about jumping you into that, and just I don't know. I just had trouble with going actually doing it. Take you like a minute or two to kind of be like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing now. They would have actually done a lot of effectiveness, which you go ahead and actually find this in the second episode, not so much the first one, but definitely the second one, where establishing shots of as we move to scene to scenes, whether we know that we're moving on to a different scene, and definitely we're moving on to a different day or time of day or anything like that, would have gone ahead and actually helped us out a lot, because there are times where you go and actually know, I don't know what time it is, I don't know what's going on, I don't know what sequence of the show that this is happening, to go ahead and actually give me the framework to kind of understand where we're at. And the movie in the series could go ahead and actually really benefit from that. One of the things that I couldn't go ahead and actually kind of wrap my head around is how uh, Derek's confessions, how they would go and actually fly in the face of like long term family relationships. It just seemed forced. It would seem like, I don't know. I can't, again, I can't wrap my brain around. I can't articulate it enough. But something about his confession, how he did that, was just weird to me overall. And in the second episode, you kind of go and actually see a play out of just like, how are we getting here? It just seems like it doesn't make sense or whatever. And the naivety of the parents really starts to drag in the second episode, that starts to kind of get on your nerves, and you're just kind of like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then the ending of episode two is pretty decent, a little bit better than the first episode, but again, they don't make themselves very binge worthy. It's like either you like it or you don't at the end of each episode. So those are kind of my notes from those first two episodes. Now let's go ahead and actually just kind of just piecing out a couple different things as far as the storytelling and the acting. For storytelling, I'm going to go ahead and actually put it at a D. Now, a lot of people will go and say that sounds kind of harsh, depending, considering what I've said before. This is still it's still chaotic the way that things are being told in this particular show. The pacing and the lack of establishing shots really stands out. Lack of scene transitions or anything like that make it difficult to kind of put what in what timeline, when is this happening, what time of day is this, how to go and actually make this make sense so that the next part of the story goes and actually flows or whatever. And that really is a big detraction from anything that is being said or what have you. It's very much like how you would do it if you were like a high schooler making this, where you're not really worried about establishing shots and you're just trying to get a film made. And again, Tubi falls into that. Even though the production qualities are higher as far as like the audio system and the camera work and things like that are a little bit better here, you still lack some fundamental framing of this to go ahead and actually make a more polished series, and that really kind of sticks out. Like if you like a scene, you want to go and actually feel the natural flow going into the next scene, and you just don't feel that. Really, there's no explaining of things going on in there. And I know it's always better to show than tell, but if you're not very good at showing, then you better tell it in exposition or what have you. And this show really just kind of tells you like, hey, just boom, we're going and we're going, and we're not going to show it very well. We're just going to go. We're acting. The story's moving forward. Keep up. And it suffers from that aspect of it. You can get the gist of things on there, but you have to go and actually sit a moment with to kind of figure it out. And the premise is solid, but again, the journey is really bumpy, and that's why I give the storytelling a D. Within the acting for this series, I'm going to go and actually say it's a C minus. Now, while the acting is kind of all over the place, there are still some good scenes of tension and fear, especially with the main character being on the screen. But there's other times where you kind of wonder, was anyone given rehearsal times? Because it seems like they're just kind of reading their lines for like the first time or what have you, ever since like the table read or whatever. And so it just kind of, you just kind of like left there like, okay, what's going on here? This isn't really done well or what have you. But the core three of the main character, the mother and the father, play pretty well off of each other. They're solid, even if they're not always convincing. They're giving it a good effort, and there are times where you pick up on that tension and what they're trying to do here. But considering that the dialogue, the cinematography, and the supporting actors are kind of sus at times on there, I still have to grade it below average, but still C minus, especially for Tubi, not bad. Overall, for a Tubi series, this is actually solid. The premise of what black families deal with, if they have someone that's suspected of being a criminal, it's pretty good here. Someone was conveyed as a bit much, but I think the project is worth a minimum watch just to see if it's your type of thing. Because if you can get past some of the storytelling fables and some of the questionable acting on there, there's a good message here, there's a good premise, and there's some good tension buildup within those core actors, whatever. And I think it's actually worth that. So again, for both core audiences and casuals, give it a one episode watch. And that's what I have for The Stranger in Our House, now showing on Tubi. Check it out.
And justice better prevail, or I'm going to jail.
You stayed for the entire video. Appreciate you. Really love you for that. We're growing here on the channel. As you can go ahead and actually see, the numbers are slowly ticking up. I may not be at no big numbers out here like no John Campia or Film Theory or any movie reviewers, anything like that, or Chris Stuckman or anything like that. But I am enjoying this. It's fun. And hopefully you get some value out of this. If you like any of this, do me a favor, click like, share, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Maybe watch another video on here, see if you like that. But until the next time, I'll holla at you. Take care of yourself.
Now that's a happy ending. Or is it? Because everything's over now, and all that's left is you and the infinite void.